All right, so we got the 377 spoilers, and this is definitely the most exciting chapter that we've had in like the last couple weeks because it's shifting over to like the other more important stuff that's happening, I guess you could say. Because in the previous chapter, we saw that after Kurogiri transported Toga to where Endeavor Twice and All for One was, she started spreading like into the mainland, which she wasn't able to do before. And afterwards, All for One tried to leave to go to UA because he said that there was like another step that needed to be done to perfect Shigaraki or to complete his body, and Hawks kind of stopped him. But we also saw that Dabi, who was teleported there by Kurogiri as well, started to go after Endeavor, and that's like where that chapter ended. And like I said, we're not picking up on that. We're moving over to the other stuff because the chapter begins showing cherry blossoms while a narration says that the heroes are in a bad place and the villains are striking back. They tried to divide them, but now the winds blow violently. At this moment, someone reaches out their hand towards the cherry trees. Back to the present, and we see a portal opening at UA. Aizawa notices Mike there and understands what that means. Soon afterwards, a Twice clone also passes through the portal and starts multiplying and attacking Aizawa, Manuel, and Monoma. So yeah, we're finally coming back to this. After Spinner had activated Kurogiri in the hospital, like before President Mike was able to get there, like I said, he teleported Dabi and Toga, but he also seemed to like teleport himself directly to UA behind like Aizawa, Manuel, and Monoma. And I was saying like, okay, so this is going to stop them being able to erase Shigaraki / All for One's quirks, right? Because they've been doing that since he got there. And since they're being stopped here, in theory, he would be able to go full power and just go on a complete rampage. Well, turns out that actually happens because that causes Monoma to stop looking at Shigaraki / All for One for a second, and then a huge explosion happens. The power poles are destroyed and the arena starts to fall. They are no longer able to stay in the air. Mandalay reports on the situation with her quirk, and Skeptic keeps hacking. So yeah, this is insane. Like, he literally explodes like a bomb. And most of UA is pretty much destroyed by this. Like, it's pretty crazy how this is happening, and I'm not really sure how the other heroes are surviving this, especially Bakugo, but I guess they are. Maybe they went somewhere else. I don't really remember where they all technically are right now, but this explosion is pretty bad. Like, it's like blowing off the pillars and everything. So this is just like immediately what Shigaraki / All for One can do using their full power. Also, another thing happens in this sequence that's not mentioned in the spoilers, so I'll talk more about it in my review on Friday. But as Shigaraki is like exploding, he like becomes a cocoon of himself, if that makes sense. Like, his big, huge, bulky exterior that he's had for the last couple chapters like breaks apart, and like a new version of himself comes out the back of it. This is probably paralleling to how he was described by Yujiko originally. It is then that Shigaraki, using the ore pronoun, asks why Midoriya wanted to know if he was still there. Did he want to have a chat at the mall? It's useless, hero. After all, I am your villain. Midoriya notes that Shigaraki's personality has returned. So yeah, I guess him emerging from his own cocoon allowed him to restore his personality, which he hasn't had for a long time. It's been like All for One that's been the dominant personality, aside from like, you know, Shigaraki or Tenko coming through for like a second or two. And then him also asking Izuku like, hey, why did you want to know if I was still here? You know, because a couple chapters back when Izuku finally got to UA and started beating down Shigaraki / All for One, he asked him like, hey, is Shigaraki still in there? Because I don't know, he is legitimately trying to talk no jutsu to him. Let's just call it for what it is. But it's understandable because Shigaraki is being manipulated, of course. But he's beyond saving at this point. It's more so obviously going to come down to Tenko, if anything. And it's only a matter of time until Izuku like literally realizes that there is a Tenko personality fragment within them. I mean, he kind of senses it now, but he doesn't fully know it yet. And I also like him saying like, hey, did you want to have a chat at the mall? Obviously in reference to like their iconic meeting at the end of season 2. Skeptic has taken over the UA system and the underground shelters. He laughs and says that everything is in his hands. Deku is tired and says that this is the effect of gear shift on his body. If he doesn't let his cells rest, he won't be able to breathe. Okay, so first of all, Skeptic taking over the UA system and the underground shelters. This is important because, you know, what we're going to be talking about later on in the spoilers, but this whole system still has a big part in this arc that hasn't lived up to its potential yet. The underground shelters, like, they connect to Shiketsu, which is something they only really mentioned once, and I'm pretty sure that meant that that's how Shiketsu was going to come into this arc. Like, they are going to show up and start helping, and I'm sure the other schools will too, but Shiketsu for sure. And then Izuku saying that he's tired because of the effect Gear Shift has on his body. This is something that we've been talking about for like the last couple weeks now, that Izuku was eventually going to pass out from using transmission, because the second user told him that he pretty much only had 5 minutes to use it because of how powerful it's become through One for All. Like, originally it was meant to only modify the speed of like smaller objects, but now it's gotten so powerful that Izuku can alter the speed of his individual cells, and we saw that it makes him pretty much like a Super Saiyan if he wasn't already. And the whole 5 minutes thing is coming back to him saying like, if he doesn't let his cells rest, he won't be able to breathe. And I assume that is eventually going to happen, like maybe him having difficulty breathing, but not going to die from it or anything. He's going to pass out, I assume. But the second user says that he cannot stop yet. One for All and All for One are connected, and he sees that the inner All for One is enabled to freely control Shigaraki's body. Deku needs to take this chance and move. All the events leading up to this moment will be the key to victory. So yeah, the second user is kind of like pushing Izuku, which I assume will lead to him passing out, and will further move us into like the villains comeback here. Like, it seems like the villains are gonna have a big comeback before they ultimately lose at the very end. But for now, we're gonna be into that portion of the story, and like I said, Izuku's probably gonna be unconscious for it. Or maybe he goes into the Vestige World at that point and has like his big file exposition dump and reveals and everything that we don't know yet. Skeptic continues hacking, but suddenly a silhouette appears on one of his computers saying, "Found you." The voice says that it was very difficult to find where he was, but they are not the least bit mad about it. After all, it is all for Gentle's sake. It is then that we see La Brava is standing next to Tsukuuchi hacking Skeptic. End of chapter. So wow, what a big reveal. La Brava is back, counter-hacking Skeptic. And like I said, this is important because, you know, those underground systems and everything are going to come into play with Shiketsu. So it's better that the heroes have control of that for sure. But also La Brava coming back is something that we kind of expected, right? I mean, way back from the ending of their arc, of course, but even more so after that, because I think it was like chapter 304 through 306, somewhere around there, when Izuku was talking to the Vestiges. He's like remembering people who he had met and wondered if he could have changed them for the better or not. And he remembers like Stain, Overhaul, Muscular, and then Gentle and La Brava. And then we were thinking like, oh, well, all those characters are going to come back then. And they all did, except for Gentle and La Brava. So now finally they're back now. And like I said, also it was set up at the end of their arc, when it was like after they were arrested and taken in. And it was kind of insinuating like, hey, they can, you know, turn their lives around and be legitimate heroes possibly. Because that's what they were originally trying to do, but they were just misguided about it. So yeah, it does seem like they're doing some kind of special program with Gentle and La Brava here, where they're going to be able to do hero duty or something, but then also be incarcerated. Kind of like the S Squad, you know, that Harley Quinn and all them are a part of. I can't say that word on YouTube, obviously, but you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the video today, guys. So let me know what you think about these spoilers in the comments. And if you like the video, please give it a like and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day. I'll see you in the next one.